Welcome to today's episode of The Growth Hack. I'm Marcus Slater, and today I want to talk about quit or commit. First, you have to decide to start, which is, I think, 90% of the battle. If you can start, then you have to decide, when will I quit or when will I commit to whatever that may be. Now, this can be business-oriented. If you're in this business, you're doing it, this is great, but are you going to quit or commit? That could be passioned by revenue. Maybe there's an issue with cash flow, conversion, all of those types of things. But you either have to double down in it and get after it and say, listen, I'm going to make this work no matter what. Or it's time to quit and pivot to the next idea. And you should always have the next idea in business. And I want to make it clear, I don't think there's anything wrong with quitting. Quit sometimes can be related to a negative, a bad word. I think that quitting in some of these instances could be you growing as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, in this aspect of saying, you know what, I have reached my limitation for this, or I've reached my passion. Maybe you've had a passion for this for a long time, but now you're wanting to stop doing it. You just don't feel passionate, or you found something else to be passionate about. That is where you have to start exploring, okay, is it time to quit? Or is there another way around it? When you say commit doesn't have to be a solo journey. It may just be to the time for you to fire someone else who shares that passion and is ready to take the load of. A lot of times when we get into it, it's just exhaustion. Being a business owner, being an entrepreneur, it is exhausting. We argue that most doctors would probably relate this to being fairly crazy. You'd have to almost be a little crazy, right, to say, I want to dive into the unknowns of business. I want to be solely responsible for the success or the destruction of my career, my financial security. So you have to be borderline crazy to do that. But sometimes it's just saying, listen, I need help. This is coming from someone who traditionally is like, I can do it all. It's okay. I can figure it out. We'll get it done. And then you run yourself rampant. And I've been there many times over my career saying, okay, I took on too much. I did too much. I needed to hire, but I didn't take the time to do that. And it always backfires. And so deciding whether it's time to quit or commit applies to your business life, entrepreneurial life, but this can be related to marketing as well. You need to have a clear stopping point. You need to say, this is our max spend. We only have X amount to spend over the next quarter. We can only afford a cost per lead of X. And if you're not hitting that mark, you need to say, if we don't hit that mark, we quit and we try again. Or you commit and double down because you know there's going to be an infusion of cash. But be decisive in the decisions that you're making. Don't sit and waver back and forth based on what that metric says today versus tomorrow. It is the worst way to market. 9 times out of 10, if it's showing bad today, it's probably not going to be any better tomorrow. You want to be decisive in those decisions and to always be planning for the next step or a couple of steps ahead. Again, same as I said, like your business idea, right? If you're launching a new business, I think it's great. You have that idea, but you should have 2 to 3 more ideas in case that one doesn't work out, because it is hard to get off the ground and get money. And you shouldn't be discouraged if it doesn't work out. You should be ready to pivot into a new option. And that could be in the same business model, but maybe it's a different product. Like this, we're going to launch with product A, but if this one doesn't convert, we have product B, C, and D already prepped and ready to try and test with the audience. Don't wait until you're failing with A to be like, ooh, guys, I think we should maybe have built a product B. Because now you have to go through research, you have to development, and during all that time, you're just burning cash with nothing out there testing and going live. So it's important to have a plan B, plan C, plan D in business and make sure you know how to follow that, but also know that you are looking at things with clear eyes and say, hey, this is the truth of the matter. This is where it is. This is not a failure. This is just where we need to be successful and to move forward. And unfortunately, financial realities are at the core of that, managing risks in each pathway across the board. If you're managing clients in the marketing world, you have to not only manage your financial risks, but their financial risks. You never want to be costing a client more than you've promised because you're not being true to what the results are seeing. We say this at our agency, if we're not driving results for you, let's wash our hands, let's be done. It's not benefiting the client, it's not benefiting the reputation of AdCloud, it just didn't work for whatever reason. Maybe it's locality, maybe it's the studio itself. Like, it could be any number of things, time of year. It's not to say it's Marcus's fault, it's AdCloud's fault, it's the client's fault. It's just to say this is nature of the business. Sometimes it works, oftentimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You have those rare occasions. But what you shouldn't do is try to prolong it for the sake of your own financial gain. Again, just really managing the risks in each path. But if you're starting a business, you need to really manage your financial risks and understand where every penny is going, why it's going there, what's the ROI on that, and how it's being affected, and when you should get out. Like, when is your absolute bottom dollar time to get out? Turning those decisions into actions. You just create a clear path, write it down, make a plan, and say, this week we're going to do X, Y, and Z. And if these things work, here's our pathway. If these things don't, this is our pathway. There's plenty of mapping softwares, or if you're more analog and like the pen and paper, you can do that. I have an office full of people who like to pen and paper for some reason. You can use draw.io. You can go and map out the if-thens. If this works, we're going here. If this doesn't work, we're going here and we're getting out. It's much easier to do that and have that prepared than to try to decide off the cuff and have those discussions while you're burning cash. Knowing when to pivot, knowing when to pause, knowing when to persevere and push through and say, this is just a timing thing. We saw this a lot during COVID, right? Businesses had to decide, are we going to persevere and push through this unknown amount of time? We had tons of clients who had to close their doors. Business owners had to decide, are we going to continue on and just close and try to make it work? Or are we done? Do we call it quits? And be okay with that. And so if you have clear plans, I think you're okay. Now, that was obviously an unforeseeable. No one had a clear plan for that. Post-COVID, everyone has a plan. This is our out. Or we're going to hold strong because we know the grass is greener on the other side, and we will get through it. It's important to just sit down and evaluate and reevaluate the business quarterly, maybe monthly if it's that fast tracking, but at least quarterly. Find some quiet time, sit down and just evaluate where you were, where you are today, where you want to be, and is there an attainable route to getting there? I think sometimes as business owners, we oftentimes, and I do this a little bit, like, man, things are just crazy right now. But then when you look back, we've excelled in growth. We've added staff. There's a lot of things to be proud of. But when you're in the day-to-day of it and you're coming in and you're just trying to keep your head above water, a lot of times it can seem disparaging. So take your time to look backwards. And a lot of that comes down to reporting, right? Being able to highlight those high points and high periods of time where there was success. Your revenue grew by 15% over the last year. That is a win. Anything that's not a loss is a win. And some losses that come with learnings can be a win. Really try to look at those things and evaluate where you are today, where you want to go, how can you get there, and can you get there efficiently, or is it time to maybe call it quits? Thanks so much for joining us today, and we will catch you on the next episode of The Growth Hack.